Hello, and welcome to dirby.art. In my last video, I covered art from the Third Dynasty of Ur, or the Neo-Sumerian period. This video will look at art from both the Isin-Larsa and the Old Babylonian periods, the two successive Mesopotamian dynasties to emerge after the Neo-Sumerians. After the fall of the Third Dynasty of Ur in 2004 BCE, new dynasties of rulers emerged to form the kingdoms of Isin and later the kingdom of Larsa. Although neither would establish a strong dominance in Lower Mesopotamia, this period is referred to as the Isin-Larsa period. It would last from the fall of Ur to the conquest of the region by Babylon in 1763 BCE. The Isin dynasty emerged in 2025 BCE during the rule of the last king of the Third Dynasty of Ur, Irby. It was established by Ishbi-Erra, a high-ranking official during his reign, who is often portrayed as a divine figure, a tradition we see repeated in the art of Mesopotamia. The city of Isin gained control of the former religious and political capitals of the Neo-Sumerian period, such as the cities of Ur in the south and Nippur in the north of Mesopotamia. During the dominance of Isin, expansion included the reclaiming of territory lost during the fall of the Third Dynasty of Ur, as well as military campaigns against Elamite and Amorite groups. However, this dynasty was not able to establish lasting authority in the area, especially in the north, and rule over Sumer was intermittent. In southern Mesopotamia, the kingdom of Larsa emerged after the fall of Ur, having been founded in 2025 by Neplalim, an Amorite administrator. Many of his successors would adopt a military expansionist approach to neighboring territories, conquering important cities such as Ur and establishing Larsa as a dominant southern power. Although Larsa was a strong political power, it did not amass the territory that previous Sumerian dynasties controlled. Rivalry between Isin and Larsa occurred as Larsa grew to be a direct challenger for dominance in the area. This was exacerbated by the seizure of Ur, the main port for maritime operations, by Larsa in approximately 1922 BCE. This was followed by further expansions, to culminate in the capture of the city in 1792 BCE. Larsa's final ruler, Rimsin I, one of the longest reigning rulers in Mesopotamian history, would eventually gain control of the city of Isin, expanding the kingdom of Larsa. The region would become part of the Old Babylonian Empire under King Hammurabi in 1763 BCE. The early kings of Babylon had begun to establish a small territory in central Mesopotamia from 1894 BCE onwards. This was centered on Babylon, a city situated to the north of Nippur that was not subject to control by Isin or Larsa. Upon ascending the throne in 1792 BCE, King Hammurabi would greatly expand the territory controlled by the city. Hammurabi and later rulers identified themselves as Amorite, a Semitic-speaking Bronze Age group from the western Mesopotamia region. These people still maintained a nomadic and tribal lifestyle, which was not viewed favorably by the contemporary Akkadian and Sumerian-speaking groups. With the fall of Ur, they started to assert a dominance in the southern regions of Mesopotamia. After taking control of Babylon, Hammurabi would over a span of 30 years control the southern regions once controlled by Rimsin I. He would also extend his rule into regions in the north, east, and west of the region. From this rose the Old Babylonian Empire, with the city of Babylon as the political capital of Mesopotamia. The successors to Hammurabi would rule southern Mesopotamia up until the sack of Babylon by the Hittites in 1595 BCE. Art from the Isin-Larsa and Old Babylonian periods continue the Mesopotamian themes of religion and of state. Numerous deities are depicted in art offering divine protection and well-being. These appear on objects such as cylinder seals. These small amulets carved from hard stones like hematite not only continue the use of earlier themes, they also continue stylistic conventions, such as the hierarchical interactions between humans and gods. This can be seen with the continuation of the presentation scene as a theme on many of these seals, as I discussed in the video on Neo-Sumerian art. Similar to cylinder seals were rollers, which were used to press impressions into clay, creating tablets and documents with cuneiform text. These have provided valuable information about this time period, given information on politics, trade, economics and taxation, military organization, medicine, and religion. They also give insight into music, poetry, dance, and other regional customs that characterize the culture of the Old Babylonian period. The Epic of Gilgamesh also appears as a popular theme in some of these tablets, and in Mesopotamian art overall. Small-scale sculptures in terracotta or bronze are also abundant. From the Old Babylonian period, open bronze plaques and rollers made using the lost wax method have been found. Designs are either simple or complex in nature, and openings and slots in the item suggest the use of textiles or straps with these items, although the exact usage remains unclear. Many terracotta plaques portray divine figures, and they, along with the cylinder seals, become widely distributed due to their accessibility to a wider population range. Inspiration from these pieces can be seen in artwork from Iran, Syria, and Anatolia. The subject matter for the image I am doing a study of in this video is one such terracotta plaque depicting a goddess. The image, known as the Queen of the Night, is a high-relief plaque dated between 1800 to 1750 BCE. It is also known as the Burney relief, named after its former owner, Sidney Burney, who displayed it in the Illustrated London News in 1936. It is made from baked straw-tempered clay and was originally painted red and black in a manner similar to how I am presenting it here. It shows a winged goddess standing on two lions while holding a rod and a ring, symbols of justice and divinity. The headdress with horns is a common feature in Mesopotamian deities, and her feet end in bird talons. The black backing of the image, along with the inclusion of two owls that flank her, are associated with the night. The multicolored wings that fall downwards link her to the underworld. Along the base runs a motif that represents mountains. The figures in the setting face the viewer in a horizontal placement, with the owls and the lions mirroring each other. This mirrored, symmetrical, and horizontal placement of the figures creates balance, suggesting the ordered nature of the power and beauty of the goddess. A few goddesses have been put forward for the identity of the deity, such as Inanna, also known as Ishtar, a sky goddess and the goddess of love and war. The headdress indicates the figure is of an important Mesopotamian deity, such as Inanna was, while she is also the only goddess to be associated with lions. Her ornaments are also mentioned in a myth about her descent into the underworld. A second view identifies her as Inanna's older sister and rival, Ereshkigal, who ruled the underworld. This is based on the wings pointing downwards and not upwards and spread outwards. The presence of the symbols of Inanna are explained as showing Ereshkigal's triumph over her sister, where Inanna had been stripped of them in the underworld. Some sources have also linked her to the biblical demon Lilitu or Lilith, due to the presence of the wings, the talons, and the owls. It is from this interpretation that the name Queen of the Night originates. However, most scholars do not accept this view anymore, and regard the depiction as being of Inanna or Ereshkigal. The plaque was made from clay with chaff added to help bind the material and prevent cracking. This was pressed into a mold and allowed to dry. Details were then carved into the dry clay and the surface was smoothed over before being baked in an oven. As timber was scarce, this method points to the artwork having some significance in function. After it had cooled, it was painted in red, black, and white, and gold was used for the rod and ring symbols, the necklace, and the headdress. The pigments used have long since eroded away, but analysis showed that minerals used included red ochre and possibly gypsum for white, although it has been noted that this may have resulted from the efflorescence of salts in groundwater. It was originally placed in a shrine and today can be found in the British Museum. It has similar qualities in technique and craftsmanship to Hammurabi's Lord Code, and may have originated from the time of his reign. Hammurabi's Law Code, or the Code of Hammurabi, is an example of a black basalt stele depicting King Hammurabi. Found at Susa in 1902, it is amongst the most well-known works of art from the Old Babylonian period. The relief on the stele shows the king standing before the sun god Shamash, the god of justice, with legal codes engraved in cuneiform on the base. The text explains how Hammurabi's rise to power and creation of these laws to provide justice for his people are divinely sanctioned. This law code differs from previous law codes from Mesopotamia in that instead of providing a list of compensations to the victims, it provides physical punishments and specific penalties for each crime, thus limiting the type of retribution sought by the victim. It is also amongst the first law codes that are based on the presumption of innocence. Similarities between this code and the law code from the Torah have been noted. The god Marduk, who later would become the chief deity in the Babylonian pantheon, is also referred to in the inscriptions on the stele as the god who commands Hammurabi to provide these laws. Marduk appears in many other artworks, and if you watched my last video on Neo-Sumerian art, you may remember the image I used was part of his origin story. Marduk was a prominent deity in the religion of ancient Mesopotamia, and during the Old Babylonian period served as a mediator between the gods and the king. He would increase in importance in later dynasties, and at one point was represented by a large statue known as either the statue of Marduk or the statue of Baal, a word meaning lord. He served as a patron deity for ancient Babylon, and this statue, the main one of a total of 7, was located in the main temple of the city. The statue was made from wood and covered in gold and silver. It had enormous religious significance, being used during festivals and coronations, where the deity presented the crown to the king. During its existence it was stolen on a few occasions by foreign invaders, and its absence meant the rituals associated with it could not occur. Its ultimate fate is unknown, possibly being destroyed by the Persian king Xerxes I in 484 BCE, although this may have been a different statue. The statue of Marduk was first stolen in 1595 BCE when the city of Babylon was sacked by the Hittite king Mursili I. This conflict put an end to the First Dynasty of Babylon and ushered in smaller, shorter-lived dynasties such as the Kassite dynasty, lasting until 1160 BCE. In northern Mesopotamia, the Assyrian Empire would become a dominant power, only to be succeeded by the Neo-Babylonian Empire in 626 BCE with King Nabopolassar. I will look at art from the Assyrian and Neo-Babylonian empires in my upcoming videos. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment and subscribe. As always, thank you for watching and take care.